If you dare, join us in Miller's Woods, where nightmares come to life, and no one ever makes it out the same. So, there were these three friends, Jake, Sarah, and Chris. They were the kind of friends who did everything together. One summer evening, they decided to go camping in Millerswood. Now, Millerswood had always had a bit of a reputation. People said it was haunted. But these three didn't believe in that sort of things. So they packed their tents, grabbed some snacks, and headed out. They set up camp just as the sun was setting. The air was still, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. They built a fire and started telling stories. But Jake, the biggest skeptic, kept joking around. Ghosts aren't real, he said, laughing. It's just a bunch of old tales to scare kids. But as the night went on, something felt off. It was like the forest was watching them. The fire started to die down, and the shadows around them grew darker, almost alive. Sarah was the first to notice something weird. She saw a figure standing just beyond the trees. She pointed it out to the others, but when they looked, it was gone. Probably just your imagination, Chris said. Thought his voice wasn't as confident as before. But then they heard it, a faint whispering like someone was talking just out of earshot. The three of them froze. The whispering grew louder, surrounding them, but they couldn't make out the words. It was like the forest itself was whispering secrets, things they weren't supposed to hear. Jake tried to stay calm, suggested they check it out, to prove there was nothing there. So they grabbed their flashlights and started to follow the sound. The deeper they went into the woods, the louder the whispering became, until it was almost unbelievable. And then they saw it. A dilapidated old cabin hidden in the thick of the woods. None of them had heard about any cabin in Millerswood, and it definitely wasn't on any map. The door cracked open, and they saw something move inside. Just a shadow, quick and fleeting. Jake, trying to be brave, stepped forward. "Hello?" he called out, but no one answered. The whispering had stopped, and the silence was deafening. Against the better judgment, they entered the cabin. It was old, dusty, and filled with a strange carving on the walls, symbols none of them recognized. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. The cabin grew colder, and the shadow on the walls started to move, twisting and contorting. The whispering returned, this time from inside the cabin, and it wasn't just one voice, it was many overlapping and chaotic. Sarah panicked and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Chris was shining his flashlight around, and that's when they saw it. A figure in the corner, standing completely still. It was a man, or at least it had been once. His eyes were hollow, and his skin looked like it had been drained of all life. Jake shouted, "What do you want?" But the figure just raised a hand and pointed at them. The whispering grew louder, more frantic, until it was unbelievable. And then, just as suddenly as it stopped, everything stopped. The door swung open, and then cold air rushed out. Without a second thought, the three of them bolted out of the cabin and ran as fast as they could back to their campsite. When they finally stopped, gasping for a breath, they looked back, but the cabin was gone, like it had never been there. They didn't sleep at all that night, and as soon as the sun rose, they packed up and left Miller's Woods for good. Jake, Sarah, and Chris never talked about that night again, but they all knew one thing: whatever was in those woods, it wasn't just a story, it was real, and it didn't want them there. So, if you ever find yourself near Miller's Woods, maybe think twice before wandering too far in. You never know what might be waiting in the shadows.